We have a mitzvah of washing our hands before eating bread. Anytime we sit down to a formal meal which involves bread, we have to wash our hands. Something similar to the way the Kohanim, the priests in the temple, would wash their hands before they began their service in the temple. How do you wash your hands? Well, first you need to have a cup. And you gather some water in that cup. And then you pour the water from the cup over your hands. Over your right hand, over your left hand. That is the ritual way of washing hands. If we understand this, we come to some very powerful insights. Kabbalistically, symbolically, your hands represent your emotions. People who get very excited talk with their hands. You have a right hand and a left hand, a right arm and a left arm. Those represent the duality of our emotions, attraction and repulsion. Love means I'm attracted, hate means I'm repulsed, or fear. So there's push and pull, two sides of our emotions. I want to get closer to you, or I want to get further away from you. Very opposite in their directions. That's why you have a right shoulder and a left shoulder. That's why right and left exist. Because right means attraction, left means rejection. And then the other emotions that derive from the two original. Now, the emotions are the seat of our existence. That's where we live in our feelings. But that's also where we can mess up. Love can be very messy. And hate, of course, can be very messy. They can support life, make life livable, or they can destroy life. I'm not sure which of the two emotions caused more damage in history, love or hate. Because things done in the name of love can be horrific. So, unholiness attaches itself to people not so much in their brain as in their emotions. And the hands represent the end or the lowest part of your emotions. And that's why you need to wash your hands once in a while. You don't need to wash your brain as much. It's not as easy. But the emotions need to be checked once in a while to make sure that they're going in the right direction. How do you check your emotions? With your intelligence. Water represents intelligence. And that's why water flows downwards. Intelligence is the highest part in our makeup, in our character, and it flows down towards the emotions. Where do I express, or how do I express what I know and what I understand? In feelings. If I understand how good you are, I am attracted, so I experience love. If I understand how bad you are and how dangerous you are, then I'm repelled, either hate or fear. So the intelligence moves downwards to the emotions. The emotions move downwards towards action. When I love, I do something about it. When I hate, I do something about it. So how do I check my emotions? With my intelligence. What it means in simple language is, emotions need to be spontaneous, alive, unpredictable, inflammable. That's a real emotion. But that spontaneity has to have some safety net. You can be spontaneous if you're not afraid of falling or running into a wall and hurting yourself. The intelligence creates that kind of safety net because your intelligence will object if the emotions are getting out of control. So your emotions are guided, checked by your intelligence. To make it a little more understandable, emotions are a little too subjective, a little too egotistical. Intelligence can, not always, but it can be objective. An intelligent person can admit that he's wrong. An intelligent person does admit that they're wrong all the time. Because every time you come up with a better idea, you admit that your previous idea was not so good. Otherwise, you're not growing intellectually. So, the gift of intelligence is objectivity. No ego. Emotions are primarily egotistical. I feel, I want, I like. That's what emotions are. I don't like, I hate, I'm afraid. Now, when intelligence has an effect on your emotions, then you have what is now called emotional IQ. Your emotions have a little touch of objectivity coming from the mind, so that you can actually tell yourself, I'm very angry, but I needn't be. I shouldn't be. I can't afford to be. And so you check it. Either completely, partially, whatever. But it's not as out of control as it would be without the mind's presence. So let's take a look at the hand washing again. The hands are the emotions. The water is intelligence. You pour water over the emotions, meaning you bring the influence of the mind over the heart. Now, what's with the cup? Why do we need to use a cup? Well, two reasons. The option without the cup is to simply submerge your hands in a river, in a lake, in a puddle, in a tub of water. But that would drown your emotions, and that's not the objective. The objective is to have some influence over the emotions without crippling them. In other words, don't take away the spontaneity, because then they're not emotions anymore, they're fixations. So you don't want to overwhelm the emotion, you just want to add a little bit of objectivity to them. So you don't stick your hand into water. But you can also put your hand under a waterfall, or today under the faucet. So running water will cover your hands, and you are washing your hands. Why do you need the cup? And here's the point I'm trying to get to. There is wisdom and there is wisdom. The mind is very creative, never stops. There's a time to speak, there's a time to refrain from speaking. There's a time to act, there's a time to refrain from acting. There is no time for not thinking. You can't stop thinking. The mind is constantly flowing, like the ocean. That kind of intelligence will either overwhelm your emotions or have no effect on them whatsoever. So when you get overly excited, superficially stimulated, hysterically inspired, those are not real emotions. That is not the way the mind is supposed to affect the heart. And that's why those experiences don't last. If you become too excited about a project, I know that project isn't going to happen. It's not going to work. It's going to start, it's going to falter, it's going to end. It's not going to happen. It's that kind of falling in love that always ends in disaster. So the intelligence that is constantly flowing, that brilliant, creative flow of intelligence, is not good for your emotions. You know, you see somebody, you hear somebody, you get very excited, you're so impressed, and then 3 days later, a month later, it's over. Which means it was never real to begin with. So there's also a mature intelligence. For the intelligence to be mature, it has to settle down. A body of water that is not flowing is a settled water, a calm water. When you put the water into a cup, and the cup contains the water, stops the flow, that gives the intelligence a time to mature, to deepen, to settle. That is called true wisdom. A mature intelligence is wisdom. A bright mind can be a child, a precocious, brilliant little genius, but there isn't that maturity. So here's what we have. You gather the water in a cup. The water stops flowing. It develops a certain calmness. And when you pour that over your emotions, then you have the purity. Because washing hands means cleanliness, purity. That's the purity with which you can serve God. So, the moral of the story? We hear many great ideas. We get prematurely excited, impressed, inspired. How do we know whether it's the real thing or not? So the first thing is, we should be a little suspicious of every new idea. If it's a new idea, it hasn't settled yet. It hasn't had time to mature. A new theory, a new experiment, a new idea. It sounds like a brave new frontier, but it may also be just fantasy, which leads to nowhere. So fads. Everybody gets excited a little too quickly, and that makes me suspicious. There was no time for this thing to mature. So if somebody starts doing something that was never done before, don't rush. Let it settle. Let it mature. And then we'll see whether it's worth doing and not worth doing, whether it leads to a good place, to a bad place. even in music. A new genre of music, a new style, a new sound, let's see where this goes. Don't get so easily excited. Put your wisdom into a container. Let it sit for a minute. Let it mature for a moment before you react, before you commit, before you dive in. Including religion. You get to be too excited, too inspired, you're taking on too much, you're going to do everything, suddenly you want to be a saint, and this is not going to work. Let it mature. God is not in a hurry. So if you want to serve him properly, do it in a way that you will not change your mind in a few weeks or a month. Do it in a way that expresses age, something that's been around for a long time, something that has been true forever, that has proven itself, that has brought good results, before you get excited about something new, something different, something untested in every area of life. Even marriage. Don't claim to be madly in love. You're not. It's too soon. You don't even know who this is you're loving. Let it mature. Love can be very flighty. Let it mature. Pour some water over your emotions, but water that has settled, water that is calm. And that's why we associate wisdom with old people. Obviously, because they've had experience. But what does experience actually mean? It means their information is not bright and explosive and new. It's a matured wisdom. It's a matured knowledge. They've nurtured it. They've cultivated it. Now you can trust it. So that is the message behind the act of washing the hands. Now, we also wash our hands in the morning when we wake up or after going to the bathroom. What is the purpose of that? To wash away the unholy more than it is to bring in holiness. Where is the unholiness when you wake up in the morning? Your whole body was asleep. So if sleep is unholy, then you really need to go to the mikveh. You need to jump in a lake to wash away the unholiness which the whole body experienced in sleep. But when you wake up, that unholiness immediately leaves. You're awake. The only place it lingers is in your fingertips, in the nails. The nails are notorious for holding on to dirt. That's why you have to clean under your fingernails, because that's where it accumulates. But morally, what is it with the fingernails? They're insensitive. You can cut them and it doesn't hurt, which is the expression or the symbol of emotional insensitivity. You hurt people by being insensitive. You scratch them, you claw them. You hurt people because you have fingernails that are not sensitive. They don't hurt you, but they can hurt the people around you. That's why in Yiddish, the washing of the hands in the morning is called Negelwasser, water for the nails, not the hands, specifically for the nails. If you cut your nails, it doesn't accumulate as much dirt, and it's not as easy to cause pain. So, before you engage in a relationship, in a conversation, and certainly in a critical conversation, where you're going to say something critical, constructively, with all the best of intentions, before you do that, trim your nails. Make sure the insensitivity is not going to cause pain. And if you haven't trimmed your nails, don't say it. Don't do it. So in the morning when we wash our hands, it's a little different. We still use a cup, but instead of washing the right hand 3 times, then the left hand 3 times, we do once on the right, once on the left, twice on the right, twice on the left, a 3rd time on the right, and a 3rd time on the left. Because now we're trying to get rid of negativity. Negativity is inconsistent. So it's this hand, that hand, this hand, that hand, back and forth. Whereas when you're adding holiness, you have to behave in a holy fashion, which is consistent. First the right hand completed, then the left hand completed, not going back and forth. So the washing of the hands, although we do it all the time and hardly give it a thought, but when we do give it a thought, it's pretty impressive. If you enjoyed this conversation or this topic, and you're looking for more information, or you want to hear it again from another angle, there is a way to do that. And that is in this book. It's all there. Order it from Amazon. You can read it, reread it, and share it. I want to invite you to join us as VIPs, partners in our work, and join us also for a personal chat with other members of the VIP club. We talk about many things. There's an opportunity to ask, to respond, to make a comment, to meet the other supporters. And together we can really make a difference in Jewish life and in life in general. So join us. It's goodtoknow.org. Log in, call, make contact, and join us with the VIPs.